Ladies and gentlemen, to become a speechwriter, the first person you must convince is yourself. With any kind of performance, you have to be able to convince yourself that you can do it. Am I a writer? Am I good enough to write speeches for others? Will people pay me for that service? Here's my list of 3 things I've been doing for over 20 years to convince myself and others that I'm a speechwriter. Number 1, I prepared. I trained as a journalist. When I was a young man, I was a member of Toastmaster clubs where I'd get to practice my public speaking. And then in 1999, when the internet came along, I created a website offering myself as a speechwriter. My first client was BP. I worked for them for about a year. And then I put a classified ad in the magazine Private Eye offering my services as a speechwriter. I got a call, but it wasn't for a business speech. It was for a wedding speech. Now, I did my best. It wasn't great, but I got paid. But then the calls kept coming and I began to improve. But in the years that followed, it so happened that some of the clients would send me the wedding speeches they'd written for themselves. 40-word sentences, 40-minute speeches, content that was tedious, inappropriate, and often obscene. As one Hollywood scriptwriter once said, it's interesting to see just how bad writing can be. Now, I could give them something that wouldn't result in their disgrace. It wouldn't ruin the wedding for the bride. In fact, it made them sound classy in front of 100 people. Isn't that worth a lot of money? And I continued my preparation. I bought books of quotations and jokes like this one, and I'd go through it and I'd tick the ones that I thought were funny. Then, when I was under pressure to find some material, I could look back in these books and I'd already identified what I thought was worthwhile. So I made it my business to create the best product possible. Number 2, I created a setting. This is my office. This is my bookcase. This is my cuddly Shakespeare. This is my statue of Rodin's thinker and my bust of Cicero. I've invested in a Perspex lectern that I use to read out the speeches once I've written them. So if ever a neighbour comes round to the house, they may not know what a speechwriter is, but they can see that this is the kind of place that speeches would be written. Number 3, have a style. I have a word format in which I present my final script, just like screenwriters. I want the client to say, when she's read through the script, "Thank you very much. This is amazing." I don't want to hear, it's great, but could we just change this bit? That's why I present my text like this. I put the speech, I put the occasion, the venue, the date and the length all on a cover sheet, and I lay out the text in Courier, the easiest font to read. And a speech doesn't read like a novel, it's more like a poem. I help them with the presentation by the way it's laid out on the page. And the purpose of making it look as immaculate as possible is so that it would be a great shame to make any amendments. And that's how I like it. So there you have it. Prepare, create a setting, have a style. And you too can be a speechwriter.